So hello and welcome. So today we are going to look at our cylinder head over here, and there are various types of cylinder heads. If you can see this, it has two areas of camshafts where camshafts lie. So in this case we name it as DOHC. It means dual overhead camshaft. It means that this camshaft sits on top of the cylinder head. There are other profiles whereby the camshaft sits inside the engine block, but with this, the camshafts sit on top of the cylinder head. That's why we call it dual or double overhead camshafts. Now, with this particular cylinder head, you will notice that in every cylinder there are 4 valves. So 4 valves per cylinder. Now, how do you identify the exhaust valve and the inlet valve? Well, by their sizes, you notice that the inlet valve is a little bigger than the exhaust valve. Why is this inlet valve bigger? So that it can suck in more air for combustion. Again, you will find that there is a spark plug port over here. This is an indication that this is a petrol engine. So with the diesel engines, you don't have this port over here. Now, what is the function of this cylinder head? The cylinder head, as the name suggests, the cylinder sits over here. Let's assume this is the block. Now the piston runs up and down the cylinder. So as it comes up, it forms a combustion chamber here. So the air that is sucked in by the inlet valve comes into the bore, then it's compressed, then taken out through the exhaust valves. Now, if you can see the modification, how it is designed, you can notice that there is the inlet port over here. So this is where the oil comes through the oil gallery. The oil pump pumps it, then comes through here, then it goes up into these ports over here. If you can check, there are some ports over here. Now these ports are the ones that lubricate the camshaft. So the camshaft that controls the opening of the exhaust, and the camshaft that controls the opening of the inlet valves. Now, under high pressure, the oil, remember, it develops pressure when it goes through these narrow passages. But before then, remember that the oil pump cannot generate enough pressure. So it's only these narrow ports that when the oil runs through them, it's compressed and thus forming that pressure. If you can still have a look at it, we have the lifters. For instance, this is one of the lifters in the inlet port or inlet valve. So its function is to control the opening and closing of this valve. And there are instances where there is rattling over the head, so it doesn't happen to this since these are hydraulic lifters. So what happens? Oil fills inside it after running some time. Then as the camshaft turns, the lobes presses and opens. Maybe if you can have a demonstration, if you would have a camshaft, you could have demonstrated it better here. But the function is that the cam lobe presses here, it opens the valve. The beauty about this is that when the oil fills it, now you have a smooth run, a noiseless running of the engine. We have inside it, we have the coil springs. Now this coil, it presses. When it's pressed in, we have the locks. So these locks over here keeps the coil springs from coming out. Now, what are some of the problems that you might encounter on the cylinder head? One is the common problem known as the misfire. Now, how do you get misfire from an engine like this? Remember, the function of these valves is opening and closing during completion. And so at some point, you'll find that this valve sits over here. They get worn, and when they get worn, when the valve tries to sit over it, it loses compression. When the compression comes in, it's lost through this channel over here. So that's one of the reasons as why you might have a misfire in this particular engine. Another reason, you might have this valve guide over here. There's a valve guide in here. This valve guide, if it's bent or if it's torn, the valve stem cannot run it smoothly, and in the process it doesn't slip or it doesn't sit in the valve seat properly, thus losing compression. Another reason that you might end up having the misfire is maybe one of the valves maybe is bent. When it's bent again, it doesn't close properly. This surface here, if you have a keen look at it, we have areas, these jets. So these are the areas where the coolant come, maybe run through them, then come and exit through these other channels. Something else worth to note about this is while replacing it, it's important to check on the cracks, just to make sure that when the engine is operating, there is no loss of compression overheat. Again, you can, if you have a keen look over it, maybe here, you can have a look at this. You can see some carbon deposits over here. So these carbon deposits develop with time, and the reason why they develop with time is, one, when the valves run in and out, as in the valves closes and opens over time, these carbon deposits develop over here. And you notice that up here at the valve stem, we have the valve seals. So these valve seals, when they wear out, they let oil go inside, and with time you'll have to develop this particular kind of problem. Another reason why you can get these carbon deposits, it's an indication that this particular head is not an indirect injection. This means it's a direct injection engine. Indirect injection, this particular pot is being filled with fuel. I mean, as the fuel is being injected in the system, it's injected over here first before it is being induced into the combustion chamber. By doing so, it helps in cleaning this particular inlet port over there. Something again that you can learn from this particular engine head, the cylinder head, is that there is a sensor port over here. Something worth to mention. This sensor, you see, it is designed in such a way that it's in the inlet manifold. So this helps in detecting the position of the camshaft. You notice when it is the valve is entered through here, the valve sensor is fitted over here. This signal has to be taken to the computer box so that it identifies what particular position that camshaft is. So the camshaft position sensor is fitted over here, and the signal is taken to the computer box for proper ignition timing or retarding, and for proper fuel economy. For today, this is all about I can say about this particular type of engine head, so cylinder head. So what you should remember, that the kind of engine head this is a dual camshaft, DOHC. Reason being, two camshafts are fitted. One controls the exhaust valves and the other one controls the inlet valves. There are other ways, or there are other types of cylinder heads that only have one camshaft that runs through the cylinder head, and that one is called the OHC, the overhead camshaft. So this is the port where the injectors inject fuel through, and the other part of the cylinder head, I'll have to put it in another video so that you can explain and understand it better. For any question and queries or some suggestions, please like the page below, and this is all we can say about this DOHC. DOHC, the double overhead camshaft.